here today. We have both potential new incoming students that are here in the audience, and also some of the veteran MBA students that are here. I know there's a couple of groups that were unable to attend this presentation because they have their exams upstairs, so lucky you guys. But no further ado, I would like to introduce you, and some of you already know him, to our Dean Robert.
While Vagar is standing here, I want to congratulate him and his entire staff. I don't know if you necessarily saw it, but this past week, Business Week released their latest rankings. And we were competing in the part-time MBA program rankings. And there are more than 700 part-time MBA programs in the United States. Business Week ranks the top 74 or 75 online. We came in at number 55. Yeah. And so I believe fundamentally that what we are about here at the university is helping all of you advance your careers, to learn more, to have a chance to meet excellent colleagues, hear from faculty, learn from them, learn from each other, build your networks, and advance your careers. And whatever your personal goals might be. I mean, they're your goals. They're not my goals. So whatever that might be, we're here to help open those opportunities for all of you. And if we can do that well and help you succeed, that's the primary thing. If we can help you succeed and then help get recognized for it, well, that's even better, okay? So part of what we try to do here at FAU is bring top-notch scholars and world leaders to campus. And today is one example where we're doing exactly that. The College of Business and the College of Medicine are working together to bring a renowned world leader, Brigadier General Dr. Yitshak Kreiss. He has a wealth of experience in crisis management, in managing and making difficult decisions in very traumatic and stressful situations. So we talk about all of you as leaders in your organizations will have to make decisions under stress. You may have to handle crises. Hopefully you will not have to handle the kind of crises that Dr. Kreiss has had to deal with. It may not be life and death. You may not be dealing with situations where there are wars or earthquakes or natural disasters, and have to make decisions about who lives, who gets treated, and who doesn't. Hopefully your decisions will be more things like, how do I allocate the advertising budget to get the most customers? Or how do I improve operations in my organization? Right? But still, the people in your organization will depend on the wisdom of the decisions you make. So today, we're happy to welcome Dr. Kreiss to campus, and I'll read you a little bit of his bio so you will understand a little bit. Dr. Kreiss has received many awards for his outstanding contributions to the world's medical efforts during crisis in both war and peacetime. He's a senior executive at Shiva Medical Center. He's an associate professor at Hebrew University School of Medicine. And when we heard our president, Dr. John Kelly, president of FAU, introduce him the other night, he gave him very high praise. He said he's listened, as the president, has listened to maybe hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 or more lectures over his academic career. But he said this was among the best speakers he has ever heard. So we heard him previously said, I've got to bring him to FAU. And so he talked to me. I said, of course we would love to have him. And he can help us all understand his leadership style and how to handle crises. He can help all of us understand how to make better decisions. He's been the Surgeon General for the Israeli Defense Forces. Not only is he dealing with defense and wartime situations, but the Israeli Defense Forces and their military, the medical group shows up whenever there are natural disasters around the world. So they were one of the first to show up in Haiti when the Haitian people needed help after a result of the earthquakes and other disasters. So he's treated victims of natural disasters, wars, and other humanitarian crises all over the world. He's had to make very difficult decisions, as I say, on this. We're honored to have Dr. Kreiss here as our distinguished speaker for our Fall Dean's Lecture Series. So please join me to welcome Brigadier General Dr. Yitshak Kreiss.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon. It's always a challenge and privilege to talk to present to business school students or executive MBA students. And it's more of a challenge when I hear from the dean and from the president that this is a FAU school which is emerging and now has gotten to the 55th place ranked in the United States. So it's an honor and privilege for me to be here. And what I want to talk to you today is leadership. What I'll tell you today is leadership in crisis situations. As the dean said, I don't mean, and I don't want you in the end of this lecture to be ready to treat the upcoming crisis of Hurricane Patricia from Mexico. I would not talk in complex medical language. I will try to tell you my story, and I hope you'll get some of it as generic parameters for leadership in crisis. This is the way I want to present my story. I will take it to the extreme, because this is a story about extreme situations. But I hope you can take from the extreme scenarios the parts or the lessons learned or what you can take to your daily and routine life in your businesses, even if in your personal life. So I'm not sure here. I have to read this slide, defining leadership. Read the slide. This is the first of two slides which will be theoretical. All my presentation today is not theoretical, is hands-on experience. But I like this definition of leadership. And I sometimes add to this definition, sometimes against their will or against their interest. The art of leading people is not to lead them to a common task when they are, it's also when they are with you and your interests are the same as theirs. Sometimes effective leadership means to take them to a common task and fulfill a mission against their instinct, against their will, and sometimes against their interest. The last theoretical slide defines crisis. When you read it, you feel something, but when you feel it, this is the things I perceive as crisis. My story is about all those crises that you see over there, disasters, medical care, humanitarian help. But this crisis is not only that. Crisis is what you are familiar, I hope you're familiar with the upper slope of the graph, but this is crisis. And sometimes the crisis is personal. So my story today is based on 67 years of experience in all over the globe in different humanitarian missions and disasters. Since you can see all those missions we've been there, I'll tell you a little bit about them, and the last one was in Nepal a few months ago. I will try to present a model. This is my model. I don't know exactly what, trying to find why it's the origin of my family name, which is in Europe somewhere. My father came from Poland to Israel. But he got the name Crisis. This is my Hebrew name. So I adopted the name to Crisis Model of Effective Leadership. And I will try to present to you a 10-factor model. You don't have to adopt the model. You don't even have to remember the model. Just listen to some of the stories and try to see if you can take some of it to your own business life or personal life. When we lead people everywhere, one of the leadership principles I believe in most is to always set the bar high. How high? I say higher than what seems possible. Okay, everybody can say that. What's the problem of putting the bar, setting the bar higher than possible for your people, the people you lead? If they are not dedicated, if they are not with you, If don't identify with your vision and goals, they will be cynical. It will make just the opposite. So if I suggest to you, as one of leadership principle, when you hesitate, I would try to convince you, from my experience in extreme scenarios, in crisis, to set the bar higher than what seems possible. If it's wise to set the bar higher than possible in crisis situations, probably you can learn some for routine times leadership. Before getting into what I want to share with you today, let me give you a small sensation of what I call the crisis that we dealt with in the presentation, in the story I want to tell you. Can I get more volume, please?
גורמי ההצלה של האירוע, מה שמתרחש כרגע בהאיטי, האיש לפני שעה קלט סופג עוד רעידת אדמה חלשה יותר, איש שמתמודד עם, לפי הערכה האחרונה, 200,000 הרוגים, עשרות אלפי פצועים, מיליונים של חסרי בית, ועכשיו גם ביזה ואנרכיה שמשתוללים ברחובות.
January 2010, January 12, 2010, 5 p.m. Haiti time, there was an earthquake. Probably living here in Miami, in Florida, you're familiar with that catastrophic earthquake. In Israel, it was 12 p.m., midnight. A few hours later, I get a phone from my commander, the chief of staff. His instructions are very concise. We are sending humanitarian aid mission to Haiti, take our field hospital, and be there on the ground as soon as possible. I knew what he meant. He meant be there the first. We knew that with our capabilities, the faster we got there, the more lives we could save. That's to set the bar high. Our first and greatest challenge was to rapidly assemble 230 medical personnel, physicians from different specialties, nurses, technicians, and the logistics staff. We packed 100 tons of equipment and flew 6,000 miles to the other side of the globe. And 89 hours after the earthquake, we admitted the first patient to a hospital. We were the first advanced hospital in the region in Port-au-Prince. And look at when I say set the bar high, look at the hospital, look at the picture. We tried to do the most we could to arrange the hospital as a professional, disciplined, and as efficient as we could. And if you look at the wards, you can see the OBGYN is near the neonate, near the pediatrics, and the lab and the x-ray is near the orthopedic section. And the try to save me. And the operating room is in the intensive care. It's here. Down. שיציג מצגת. Thank you.
I'm just amazed at what's here. This is like another world compared to the other hospital. Imaging department, I mean imaging, my God, they have machines here. They have actual operating rooms and it's just amazing.
But we arrived to an incredibly welcome sight, the Israeli Field Hospital, the Rolls-Royce of emergency medical care.
Being the first into the chaos to a country which is 6,000 miles away from Israel. That's to set the bar high. And if you look at the graph that I put, and most of the things I described to you today are published in the medical distinguished literature. If you look at the graph, you'll see that we arranged the stuff very quickly, we deployed very quickly, and what took us most of the time is to arrange the planes, because Israel doesn't carry military, because we are the IDF, military cargo planes to go 6,000 miles. But we managed. And we were the first advanced capability hospital on the land of Haiti, and it stayed that way until the 6th day, and I'll show you what happened on the 6th day. Our American colleagues who collaborated with us all over the mission, when the mission ended, made an investigational committee to ask us one question. How did you been able to arrive so quickly to Haiti, 6 days before the next advanced capability hospital landed there? And we say, first, Israel as a state has a strategic decision to give humanitarian help to anyone in need. Not all the countries want to accept us, but we don't have to spend time on taking decisions in order to give humanitarian help to other countries. The second thing is if you want to move. Don't ask all the questions because you won't get all the answers. 3 hours after we got the instruction to go to Haiti, we sent an expert unit, early assessment squad of 3 experts. They flew from Tel Aviv to New York, from New York to Miami, from Miami to Santo Domingo. And then they couldn't arrive from Santo Domingo to Port-au-Prince. So they found a American military helicopter. Don't ask me how they found their way to this helicopter, but they did, and they landed in Port-au-Prince. The Americans' investigation committee asked us, how would you be able to find this football court? Because they were there and they were looking for a place to deploy. They asked us, how could you transfer all the equipment from the airport to this court? Because you've seen it took us only 8 to 10 hours to deploy. Because this assessment squad hired all the trucks it could, arriving to Port-au-Prince. The on-alert mentality, one of the challenges is to assemble very rapidly those experts, 230 experts. What we do is, I can pick up the phone and tell to my colleagues, take a bag for 3 weeks and be in the airport in 2 hours. He's a well-known surgeon, and he will leave everything behind, and he will be in the airport. And his hospital manager, will find a substitute for him in the operating room. And his patients will understand, except his wife, everything is okay. And he will be in the airport. We think that when you have on-alert mentality, as unfortunately we have, it makes things that can be quicker, it can be quick. Now let me challenge you with the fourth element I put on the slide. In Hebrew, it says, where should I be as a leader when there's a crisis? You should be where your impact, when you have the most impact, where you are most influential. Sometimes, for a general like myself, to be most influential is where the logistic people have troubles equipping the planes, because that stops the mission. So I get down from the headquarters and I go there. You probably understand that. As leaders, as businessmen, you understand that. Sometimes you have to be up, sometimes you have to be down to open bottlenecks. And in terms of be effective as a leader in crisis, remember what I put? I didn't find a better definition in English. How to say what I meant, but just explain to you. The best one I found is calculated positioning of a leader. If you have a better definition, please let me know. Preparedness and maximum independence. When we want to operate in extreme scenarios, we don't count on anyone. We bring everything with us. Energy, water, supplies, everything. And we are totally independent all over the world, except one thing. We cannot, especially in Haiti, we didn't have kosher food. So as the IDF formal Israeli delegation, we had to manage. But I think the most important thing, which is not written here, that made us be there, is the devotion to mission. And it's also something that I don't have to explain here. What do I mean when I say devotion to mission? As I told you, being the first into the chaos with a Rolls Royce of a medicine, and I didn't say a Rolls Royce of hospital, I didn't put this definition. The reporter from CBS said that this is a Rolls Royce of hospital. That's to set the bar high. But you know what happens when you set the bar high, sometimes higher than what seems possible? If your people are dedicated, they raise the bar even higher, because they perceive what you've said about the bar as they want to. 2 days after we deployed in Haiti, we admitted a 2-year-old baby who was bleeding severely from a condition known as, I promised you I won't use medical language, a condition known as hemorrhagic disease of the newborn. This is a disease that's caused because of lack of vitamin K factor, one of the vitamins. Very simple to treat. You just give him vitamin K. Although we brought a lot of advanced equipment and drugs with us from Israel, we did not bring vitamin K, which was the essential cure for this baby's disease. I'm not sure in Haiti, in routine times, you can find vitamin K, but after the devastating earthquake, you couldn't find vitamin K all over, and we were the first advanced hospital, so we had to rely on ourselves. We didn't have it. One of my surgeons approached me and said, my blood type is O-. Take a small amount of my blood, inject it into the baby. It contains enough vitamin K factors, it will save him. I, as a leader, and I'll tell you many lessons that I learned. I thought of myself as a leader, but I learned a lot in the extreme scenario in Haiti. I didn't want to actively endanger the baby, so I didn't agree. After a few hours, when it was very clear that the baby is going to die without treatment, this surgeon approached me again, insisting that we go ahead with his plan. Seeing no other option, I agreed. So we took 20 milliliters of his blood, injected into the baby. The clinical improvement was dramatic. Few hours later, the baby stopped bleeding. A day later, he began to eat, and the next day, we discharged him. Keeping the expectations high from your people, especially under the extreme conditions we've seen in Haiti, and probably you see others, is not simple. But I believe that this generates an atmosphere of dedication that allows your people and encourages them to express their own individual commitment. So, set the bar high. How high? Higher than seems possible, especially in times of crisis. If you have devoted people, they will raise it even higher. The next thing I want to share with you is the ability to analyze a complex environment or the changing environment. As leaders, we have to be the first ones. It's not so easy to understand the environment is changing when there's a crisis. The first thing you have to know is to expect that. And when I talk about changing environment, I'll tell you my experience. I'm a physician by profession. I'm a general in the IDF by vocation. When I deploy to humanitarian aid missions, I think of myself as be effective as a physician, or lead physicians, or lead nurses, or lead medical personnel. And maybe, probably all of you are responsible for people from the old profession. But if you want to be effective in crisis, understand that you'll have to take into consideration different aspects. Sometimes not in your profession at all. And I'll give you some examples. Political, I'll talk about political, cultural, social, medical, and most importantly, the unexpected. In 1999, in April 1999, we deployed a field hospital in Kosovo. The Albanian Muslim refugees ran away from the Serbians to Macedonia. There was no hospital there, so we deployed a field hospital in Kosovo working under NATO. It took us time to understand that we cannot evacuate people from our hospital to the Macedonians hospital. Because politically, we understood after a few days that the Macedonians are afraid to take the refugees into their hospitals because they didn't want them to be inside Macedonia. So we had to change, if we wanted to be effective, we had to change the way we work inside the hospital. This is political. It took time to change the medical issues because of this political issue. This is a hospital with NATO. In 2011, we deployed to Japan, being the only country except the United States to deploy field hospital in Japan. This was after the tsunami. This is a hospital. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Japanese culture. I wasn't familiar with the Japanese culture. In Japan, they won't bring a child to your hospital if he is not escorted by his physician, by his primary care physician. This is the culture. So we waited. We sat in the hospital, no one comes. So we had to change. We composed teams and went to their houses to bring them to our houses. In the Philippines, in 2013, we deployed a field hospital after Typhoon Yolanda. You see the chart on the slide. Why do you think the Philippines didn't come to our hospital? In the beginning, look at the chart. This is not something a medical leader like myself is used to deal with. But in the Philippines, medical care costs money. So they thought the Israeli field hospital would charge them. So we explained by media, by local leaders, that we are not going to charge anyone for anything, any medical care. You can imagine what happened later in our hospital. Maybe I'll show you some slides of what happened later. So also in Nepal, it took us time to understand. A few months ago, we sent a field hospital to Nepal after the earthquake there. That the private sector hospitals continue their work. Many countries in the world send humanitarian help to Nepal, but the private hospitals kept their work. And you know what? We had to respect that. So we respected that. And we admitted most of the patients to our hospital and other countries' hospital. But the most important parameter when I tell you to be ready to analyze a changing environment is the unexpected. What can I tell you about the unexpected? Just be ready that there will be unexpected things in crisis scenarios if you want to be an effective leader. When we landed in Haiti, about 80 hours after the earthquake, we've seen no severely wounded patients. Why? Because they all died. The severely wounded victims died. We've seen no mildly injured patients. Why? Because it cannot be mildly injured after 4 days, 3.5 days. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to help your family, you have to go up. We've seen only moderately injured patients. And you know what the problem was? That we could save most of them. Because they had fractures, infected fractures, we could save most of them. But there was a slight problem. There were hundreds of thousands like this. Hundreds of thousands. And I encountered something else that I haven't encountered in my life, and I didn't expect that. Think about your medical care system and our medical care system, any medical care system. When you look backwards or to your side, you have some other institutions, places to evacuate, places to share. When we worked in Haiti, there was nothing. So we understood that we are the last station. We didn't expect that. But what I want you to understand is to expect the unexpected, know how to adapt. Professionalism. What's the instinct when you're in crisis? It doesn't matter from which sector you come. I'm not talking about medicine. What's the instinct? You lower the professional standards. Believe me, that this is the instinct, and this is what most of us do. We just lower a little bit the professional standard. What I discovered from my experience, it's to work against it. Just the opposite. When you are in crisis and the organization is in stress, I won't tell you to increase the professional standards, but don't let them go down. This is an imaging computerized system. You know, when we were organizing a hospital to deploy to Haiti, we had lack of places for equipment and cargo. I insisted to take medications, cast, food, water, ventilator machines. And my staff insisted to take a computerized digital imaging system. Who takes computerized digital system, imaging system, to a disaster area? And you know what? They were right. Because putting this system in the operating room gave the orthopedic surgeons the opportunity to operate without wasting time, to be more accurate, to do less errors, less mistakes. It saved more lives. The Haitians speak Creole. They don't have identity. We didn't find the identity documents because it was a chaos. People told us that in Haiti, sometimes, even in routine times, you can find documentation for identity. But during chaos, we could identify them. And they spoke Creole. We didn't know the names. Children came without parents. So we brought with us a special EMR, electronic medical record system, that we could, with this kind of computer, we could take a picture of the patient that came in, and we put a barcode. You see the barcode here on his hand, and when he went through our hospital, every time there was a lab result, it was scanned into the system, and when there's imaging results, they were scanned into the system, so we can trace them, identify them, know exactly where they are. It saved a lot of time. Sometimes it helped us find the parents that came to our hospital, find their children, helped to find the children. That's what made, are you familiar with the word meshugener? You know what meshugener means? Yes. Yes. This is why it made the meshugener reporter from the CNN to say, who brings EMR system to a hospital? She told me after reporting that in 2010, there were some, I don't know if it's a fact, in some hospitals in the United States that didn't deploy or implement electronic medical record system. We published that. We published the system, and now I can tell you that many, many of the field hospitals in the world has adopted our medical record, EMR, electronic medical record system, for disasters. We insisted on keeping professional standards, documentation, rounds. This is the operating room list, except the straight lines. In my hospital, it's the same list. Insist on professional standards. But I'm mostly proud with this picture. You see in the picture one of my pediatricians. His name is Amit Asa, Dr. Amit Asa. Before launching to the mission, I had a few hours left. In Israel, in a few hours, you can get everywhere. So I discharge my people and tell them, go to a family, say farewell, bring something from your house, and come back very quickly. Everybody went home. They brought something. Each one of them brought something. Amit brought a textbook. After a few days working in Haiti, accepting the people that were admitted because of fractures and injuries that are connected to the earthquake, we began to see regular people with regular diseases. How do you know, by the way, in a disaster area, how do you know that the pattern is changing? You begin to see people, but small girls with earrings, with dresses, because now she has fever and she's looking for medical care. These are not the patients that we admitted earlier for the disaster, because of the disaster. So when we began to get patients from general diseases, we didn't know all the diseases in Haiti, especially with pediatrics. So to take a textbook to a disaster area, that's professionalism. Remember the picture. But most of the time, we accepted patients like that and tried to do our most to discharge them the best we could. Professionalism, insist, even in crisis. It makes your people believe. I want to talk a little bit about decision-making capacity for unusual dilemmas. I didn't change the slide for business school. It's the exact same slide I put wherever I talk about generic leadership. Because when you think about unusual dilemmas, as the dean said earlier, it can be anything. Not only matters of life and death, but it can be matters of firing someone or not, accepting someone or not, or any kind of dilemmas that you deal with in times of crisis. Ethical dilemmas are part of disaster medicine all over the world. In Haiti, we encountered the extreme scenario. Most of the time, the dilemmas were questions of life and death. Whom do you admit from among the thousands, tens of thousands outside, for whom you are the last hope for survival, when you have only 60 beds? Do you change priorities of treatment when a father brings his severely wounded daughter, which has almost no chances to survive, when you hear that she's the only survivor out of his 7 children? Do you allocate your limited resources to treat a small baby who has a chance to survive but has no parents and no place to go after discharge, and he will need long-term rehabilitation? Do you give your only pediatric ventilator machine to a preterm baby, one preterm baby will need it for a very long time to stay alive, or to several other children who will need it for a few hours to survive. This time, I felt it would be better not to take these decisions alone. I'm a leader. I was a commander. I'm a general. I'm senior physician. But this time I felt that it's not so easy to take these decisions alone, but rather to involve my staff in the process and decide together. Effective leadership, decide together, yes. So we composed ad hoc ethical committees composed of several team members. We let the physician to introduce the patient, and we voted. 3 people voted. I found this process very useful because it enhanced our performance and relieved individual physicians from the burden of determining a single patient's life. In the case of the ventilator machine, we voted 2 against 1 against giving it to one preterm baby. And you know what? You see the results immediately. But that's what I mean effective leadership. You take the decision and you are able, ready to understand the results. But we save many other children. Sometimes, or I'll tell you, I call this shared leadership. And I want to tell you my experience. The overall responsibility as a leader always remains mine, and it will remain yours, whatever system you'll adopt. But sometimes the guidance you need as a leader doesn't come from the top. Sometimes the guidance you need comes from the people you lead. For the last 2.5 years, we conduct in Israel a relatively big, in Israeli dimensions, special humanitarian mission for the Syrian victims of the civil war. You know that there's a civil war in Syria, and almost 70-80% of the infrastructure, medical infrastructure, is no longer operating in Syria. We decided to extend a helping hand to the Syrian victims of the civil war, and we established a special field hospital for the Syrian victims. It arose many ethical dilemmas concerned with the hostile border.
קשה לדמיין מה חושב לעצמו פצוע שרק לפני דקות הוא עבר לידיהם של חיילים שהיו בשבילו במשך שנים חיילי האויב. פצוע שחצה גבול בין מדינות עוינות ועכשיו הוא שוכב מכוסה בסדינים צבאיים ומביט באנשים שרוכלים מעליו ורואה פתח את המדים שלהם. אולי גם את הדגל שתלוי על קירות החדר. עבד שכב על המיטה הצבאית בבית החולים הקטן שנושק לגבול, גבו ספוג דם. החתכים בגופו התחילו בראש וירדו לכיוון הגב, כנראה מרסיסים של פיצוץ. מצבו הוגדר קשה. הוא שכב על המיטה ואחז בשארית כוחותיו בידו של רופא ישראלי. חייו תלויים בו. כמה הסיטואציה?
Whom do I treat? Warriors, rebels, Assads, anti-Assads. Whom do you treat? We decided that we'll treat, if the patient arrives to the Israeli border, to the special field hospital, we'll treat him. We don't ask who he is. And you know what I discovered in my experience as working in humanitarian missions, disaster all over the world, and also in Israel, and I want you to share that with you. Sometimes they don't want us to ask in crisis situations. My prime minister didn't want me to ask him whom to treat. When you operate as an effective leader in times of crisis, don't try to find all the answers from your leaders. Sometimes you have to go with your instinct, with your conscience, with your values, with your beliefs. To what extent do we give care? In your life, to what extent do I go to fulfill my mission? What's the price? Certain times of the year, in the last 2.5 years, almost all of the beds in pediatric intensive care unit beds in northern Israel were occupied by Syrian kids, Syrian children. And what about the Israelis? But if you want to help, help. If you want to act, act. This is your decision, go with it. So we give them medical care. Do you endanger lives to save lives? This is a hostile border. To bring those Syrians, we have to endanger our soldiers' life. Caring for the wounded does not in the patient bed. We've discovered that when they go back home, we have to give them medications. We have to give them some rehabilitations, equipment. You cannot discharge them without that. There's nothing in Syria. And then after we gave them that, we discovered that if you write the medication, if the medications are in Hebrew, that doesn't work. So we deleted the Hebrew and wrote in Arabic. If you want to help, help. If you decided to go ahead with your crisis intervention plan, go with it. And the most important thing was trust building. It takes time to build trust between nations, people, cultures. But when it comes to medicine, what we couldn't do for the last 67 years between our nations, and I'm sure it will take some time from now, we done in 67 seconds. When a father brings a child who is wounded, the trust is building in 67 seconds. But you would probably say, what this general in the middle of Saturday, in the noon on Saturday, October in Florida, is telling us about the Golan Heights, the Syrian border, Haiti, Philippines, or Japan. I want to take you to a place that you know, very close to here. Are you familiar with the Anna Po case in Memorial Hospital during Katrina? This is Sherry Fink. Sherry Fink is a friend of mine. She's a physician and a journalist. In 2010, I met her in 1999 in Kosovo. She heard about our field hospital, took a plane from New York, and joined us in Kosovo. She worked with us. Sherry Fink won the Pulitzer Prize in 2010 for her story about Memorial Hospital in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, about the ethical dilemmas she had in New Orleans. And now she has published a book named Deadly Choices at Memorial.
But to sort of lay out the scenario and summarize it a bit, Memorial Medical Center was surrounded by floodwaters after the levees failed in New Orleans in 2005. The heat rose, the backup generator system was not protected against flooding, and this is a common problem actually in flood zones and hospitals, and so the staff knew that within hours, all power would fail. Rescue helicopters began arriving, but they took 1 or 2 patients at a time, and there were about 240 patients, about 2,000 people in total. So who would you rescue first? Would it be the sick?
I don't mean that you'll go out from here and during lunch, you'll be preparing yourself for rendering humanitarian help in Hurricane Patricia and trying to understand what's the ethical platform for taking medical decisions. No, not at all. Just wanted you to understand and feel and share that you'll have to take decisions. You know that. You'll have to know the price. And if I and my staff, and the staff in New Orleans, can take tough decisions in terms of life and death, take them. I want to talk about something that executive students, business people are well known for this parameter of leadership, collaboration. But I want to talk to you about collaboration as a strategy, not as a tactics. In crisis situations, working alone is simply not an option. So collaboration is essential. It may be easy when you coordinate a patient transfer, easy. It's even easy when you share supplies, even if you don't have the supplies. You see the Russian delegation down on the slide? No, you don't. This is the Russian delegation on the slide. Just a test for... When we arrived to Haiti, the Russians approached us. They brought a small medical team. They approached us and asked me if I can give them some medical supplies. It was a few days after we arrived. We didn't have enough supplies because we lacked a few of the things we brought to Haiti, because we've seen hundreds of thousands of people treating thousands. But if the Russians are asking, the Israelis cannot say no. So I told the Russian commander, no problem, be at our hospital tomorrow, we'll share with you some supplies that we didn't have. I went back to my hospital and called my medical supply officer. His name was Sergey. I told Sergey, tomorrow the Russians are coming, please give them something that we don't need, few boxes of equipment, don't exaggerate. The next day the Russians are coming. The first thing that I can share with you is the Russians were shocked to see that there are more Russian-speaking people in the Israeli delegation than in the Russian delegation, because we absorbed a lot of immigration from Russia. And then I'm sitting in my office, which was 2 trees with a sack, and I saw the Russians are coming in, taking boxes, go out, coming in, taking boxes, going out. I began to be worried. So I called Sergey and asked him, what is going on here? I told you we don't have enough supplies. He says, boss, don't worry. I'm taking from NATO and bringing it to the Russians. Take from NATO and give it to the Russians. So, you know what? Even to share supplies that you don't have, it's easy. But when you want to work in complete jointness, which I'm not sure is a correct word in English, but in Hebrew it has a meaning. Complete jointness, working side by side, treating the same patient, or in the same operating room, that's a lot more complicated. You are not physicians, but in Israel, in routine times, to take one surgeon from one hospital, to work with another surgeon from another hospital in the same operating room, that needs a plan. So to take staff from different countries, work together in the same operating room, that's a lot more complicated. In this 3rd day, we were in crisis of our own. We had only 2 operating rooms and thousands of people waiting for surgery. A Colombian military surgical team approached us. They came to Haiti. They have no hospital, but they were with a surgical unit. They asked to join. As a leader, I thought about formalities, license, 2 armies working together on the same place, so I refused. My physicians asked me just to go to see if the Colombians, how they look like, to understand if they can work with us. So they went to the airport, came back and said, boss, take them. They arrived to our hospital. In a few hours, they set a very advanced 2 surgical rooms, and I was happy. But a few hours later, when I got into the operating room, I was worried again. The patient on the operating table spoke Creole. From Creole, it was translated to French. From French, it was translated to Spanish for the Colombian anesthetist. From Spanish to English, from English to Hebrew, from the Israeli surgeon, and then all the way back again. A Tower of Babel. But within minutes, the spirit of medicine, of professionalism, carried the day. And together, and I saw before my eyes, an elite surgical unit working according to the highest medical standards. And together, we were able to perform more than 30 life-saving operations a day. Quickly after that, we were joined by many others. Physicians from California, plastic surgeons from Vanderbilt, oral surgeons from New York, pediatricians from Brazil, nurses from Canada, and we've done anything we could to make all these very different people to fit into the life of a hospital, to work with us and to live with us. It's very easy to find plenty of excuses why not to work in complete jointness. But remember that as leaders, we are obligated to find the ways to overcome barriers of language and culture, and to bridge between legalities and formalities and licenses, to adopt collaboration as a strategy. And again, this is not something I'm preparing you for the next humanitarian mission. Think about your life. Think about your work. When do you adopt collaboration as tactics? And try to adopt collaboration as a strategy. I think in crisis time, it's effective. But most of the time, and above all the collaborations we had with many international teams, the most important one was with the American Navy, which arrived 6 days after we arrived there. The Navy ship Comfort. And the Americans, when they landed in Port-au-Prince, they adopted a higher level of collaboration. They, as you can see, they came to our hospital, took us to the ship, and said to us, we'll accept any patient that you have. We count on you. We are ready for you. And this is exactly what happened. No differences in working procedures, no differences in documentation. Everything was settled because we wanted to collaborate. I don't have the time to talk to you about the Philippines, but in the Philippines, we discovered another level of collaboration. We worked inside the hospital. This time we flew 6,000 miles to the other side of the globe. This time we got only second. The Australians beat us. But you know where Australia is. So they forgive us. So I don't have the time to show you what I wanted to show you in the Philippines, but everything is published. And if people here want to elaborate on that, you can go to read it. Another level of collaboration. Look what I put in the middle of the slide, in the center of any leadership. People, managing your people endurance. I discovered some things in Haiti about the endurance of my people. If you want to be effective in crisis, you need to manage your people's endurance. If you think you'll be able to do it during the crisis and not before the crisis, you won't be effective. So start today, in routine times, to build the endurance, to manage your people's endurance, because that's the only way it can be effective during crisis. After a few days working in Haiti, I saw that my people are beginning to collapse. They worked in the hospital. They didn't take rest because there were many wounded people waiting for them. No physician can rest when someone is waiting for him. They lived in the hospital They worked in the hospital. They slept in the hospital. The smells, the sounds, everything was, and I began to see my people collapse. They didn't approach me to say, let us rest. Was my obligation to understand I need to do that. And I learned a lesson in Haiti. So I took my deputy and told him, go find a beach, a nice beach in Haiti. A few months later, by a chance, I was in Haiti with my family. And I knew that this is a beautiful country. And he went and found a place, and we sent 10 students, 10 physicians, 10 medical personnel at the time, 10, only a group of 10, to rest a little bit. They went there, and they came back, different people. And they said, the smell, the quiet. Just play the guitar for 5 hours. When you have dedicated people, devoted people, in times of crisis, this is your obligation to manage their endurance, because they won't do it. There's a chaos outside. Do you keep discipline? Ceremonies? Symbols? My experience is the only way to operate when there's a chaos outside is to have the discipline, order, everything as you used to in routine times. The more chaos you encounter, the more you have to stick to your routine, to your routines. Remember that this is not only for medical. Here, to talk about vision and values, it's obvious. But sometimes your people ask you why. The more effective your leadership is, the less they will ask you why. And why? In our case, we believe that this is a phrase in Hebrew, that anyone who saves one soul is like he saved a whole world. Maybe this is our medical ethics that explains why. Because we believe to extend a helping hand to anyone in need, to any fellow man, is part of our obligation. And maybe that's because Israel, because of the history, cannot stand idly by. I understand. I just finished. I talked about a 10-factor model. Where's the 10th? The 10th is the leader himself. And it doesn't matter which model I describe, what I will present to you today. It doesn't matter which experience I have. All of these are only suggestions, offers to your own personality, to your own style of leadership. Make your own style as what you want. It depends on your values, experience, beliefs. But if you can take some of the other people's experience and hone your skills, that will be fine. And the last thing, let me finish on a more personal note. I will take you to 81 last time. Several days after we came back home, the phone, the same phone for my commander, rang again. And he asked me one simple question that when I thought about it, no one asked me during the 3 weeks we've worked in Haiti. He asked me, how do you feel? I told him that I was very proud of what our people have done there in Haiti, because we saved 1,111 lives. But I was also deeply frustrated because the tiny fraction, the people we saved were just a tiny fraction of the people we could save. He listened carefully, thought for a moment, and replied with a single sentence that changed my perspective. He said, in total darkness, even a small single candle can shed a great light. Thank you very much. Does anyone here speak Creole? I looked at you during the lecture. What's your name? Wilda, where have you been in 2010? Have you heard the story? I could feel, excuse me? Okay. I could feel that you are familiar with the story, and that's the reason I asked who speaks Creole here. You speak Creole also?
Yeah.
You're from Haiti?
No, I was born here.
Yeah. Have you heard about the story?
Yeah, your parents. When you
Okay.
speak to your parents, you don't hear it.
Okay. Yes, do we have time for question, or Rebecca, this depends on you. Yes.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, that's the most important thing someone can say after a lecture like that. When we arrived to Haiti, and your people, which is a gentle, unique, unbelievable people that acted in the most unbelievable way under a catastrophic disaster. When your people to arrive to our hospital, they didn't know what Israel is. And the more we worked there, the more they were exposed. And I didn't have time to talk about all the our experience there. Where I talked about environment which is changing, and to expect the unexpected. We didn't know the tradition in Haiti. We didn't know how to bury. What do they do? So we worked according to our guidelines. And then they approached us and said, we do it different. And we were very happy for that. We didn't know the ceremonies. We learned them. But we found the most unbelievable people with gentle and respectful way of behavior. Yes?
Do you have any sort of hope in sustained peace in Israel in time ever?
Yes. I have 3 children. My father was born in Poland. He ran away to Siberia in 1939. All his family was murdered in the Holocaust. He came to Israel, built his life. I'm the first generation of my family in Israel. I was born in Israel. I have 3 children. One of them is a soldier. We have no choice. Peace will be in our region someday. That's the shortest answer I can give you, because behind this answer there are hundreds of years of history, tons of papers, and you know how many wars and blood. But we have to do it, and it will be. And I'll tell you something else. I found that medicine and humanitarian help is the almost only non-political issue that can build seeds for peace. What we do in Syria is a seed, because no father in the world, and it doesn't matter how he hated us or anyone, when you save his child's life, he will not hate you anymore. He can disagree with you, but he will not hate you anymore. We're reducing the level of hate on the border, but we had the chance to treat only 2,000 people, 2,000 families. because we believe someday in Syria there will be something else, and we have to reach a hand to whatever will happen in Syria. Don't ask me what will happen. I don't know why. I don't know what. We treat Palestinians every day in Israel. Both of our peoples have no chance. We'll stay there in our neighborhood, and we'll have to find a way to live together. So for my children, I hope, and I believe, yes. Thank you very much.
Let me just say, on behalf of the College of Business and Florida Atlantic University, we appreciate your wisdom, we appreciate your message, and we appreciate your work. I think all of us have a lot of lessons to think about here, but it's fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.